Hello guys, it's me, Reysious, and welcome to a new devlog. So as many of you probably already have heard, EA decided against making Battlefront 3, so I just decided, well, I'll make Battlefront 3 myself. Sort of. Those of you who watched my last devlog already know it. 2 to 3 months ago, I decided I would make my own 3D multiplayer dueling game. And since I was pretty into Greek mythology when I was younger and I didn't want to deal with Star Wars licensing bullshit, I decided I would theme the game around Greek mythology. So you can kind of imagine Hero Showdown or HVV in Battlefront 2, but instead of playing Star Wars heroes or villains, you play as Greek gods or goddesses. And unlike in Battlefront 2, there will be a 1v1 game mode and custom games, probably in the form of a server browser. So in my last devlog, I got client-side prediction and reconciliation working with player movement. In a nutshell, it is making movement nearly impossible to hack without really making the game feel less smooth for the players. And it's actually quite a complex system, but I talked enough about that in the last devlog. I had also started working on characters in Character Creator and made some clothes in Blender, and the next step was to get the first ready character, Zeus, into the game engine, which was actually way more annoying than I thought. Like, for some reason the character looked either shiny or green, even though I used CC3's add-on for Unity, which technically should have set up all the materials automatically. And of course I couldn't really get any information about this issue on the internet either, but it's probably just because I'm too retarded to use Google properly. But luckily I was able to fix the issue quite quickly by just messing around with the color values of the materials and adding some shit to the skin materials. Okay, so with that out of the way, I can move on to the next really big challenge, animating, which is probably the biggest challenge of the entire project, and which I'm still not even close to finish yet, but I'm making progress, slowly but surely. So since I'm lazy as fuck, I figured I could use Mixamo animations for base locomotion, and retargeting them to the CC3 rig was not a big deal. And to be fair, I probably wouldn't have been able to make something better than Mixamo's motion captured animations for locomotion. However, for the more specific animations like combat animations, I knew I couldn't get around making them myself. And I mean, I'm making a 3D dueling game after all, so come on. So since I didn't really have good experiences using Blender for animating, probably just because I'm too retarded to use it properly, but I decided I wanted to try something else. And Clayton had told me about the animation software Cascadeur, which looked pretty promising, so I decided to give it a try. And after learning the basics of the program, I quickly started working on my own animations for the game. They looked like shit, by the way, but then it turned out my character had too many joints for the free version of Cascadeur. But since I'm retargeting Mixamo animations to the CC3 rig anyways, I thought I could just use the Mixamo rig in Cascadeur and then retarget the animations to the CC3 rig as well. And then some really weird shit happened.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
Turned out the Mixamo rig I tried to use in Cascadeur wasn't the same Mixamo rig as I used for the Mixamo animations that I retargeted. I really didn't think Mixamo would give you different rigs, for some reason it seems to do though, but when using the correct Mixamo rig it somewhat worked. However, the animation was still off by quite a bit, like the fingers were completely fucked up and the left hand position really was at the wrong position. I then tried to use Unity's animation rigging package to slightly adjust the hand position and tried to keyframe a animation on top of the Cascadeur animation to fix the fingers and close the fucking jaw cause that looks creepy as fuck. And I mean I got it working, but in the end I just bought Cascadeur Pro for a month, and I mean it wasn't even that expensive. And now the animation just works out of the box and I don't have to do a lot of bullshit to make it fit in Unity, which is a lot better I think. So that's probably what I'll do moving forward. I then set up a few animations with an animation controller with locomotion, block, attack, block hit, and jumps and dashes, and tweaked it until it felt somewhat responsive and smoothly, I guess. But when I wanted to test it, it turned out my server authoritative movement was completely broken, like client and server were completely out of sync and there were strange corrections coming from the server all the time. It really didn't make sense to me at all since it had literally worked perfectly fine just a few weeks ago, but in the end I said fuck it and decided to switch to client authoritative movement, at least for now, since it's way easier and there's a lot less bullshit you have to deal with than with server authoritative movement with client-side prediction and all that stuff. But then not even client authoritative movement worked. And at some point I figured out I had done a little oopsies in the packet class, basically overwriting the vector 3's z value with the y value, and when fixing that it finally all worked again, even the server authoritative movement worked like a charm, but I still decided to keep it client authoritative for now, especially since I plan to add something like saber lock or launches, which would affect player position depending on remote player positions. And I can't really think of how to make that deterministic, and determinism is absolutely important for client-side prediction, otherwise shit won't work at all and you will get constant rubber banding. So I then added melee lock or launches or whatever you want to call it, and I really had some fun trying out some rather extreme ranges. Obviously, you won't have that kind of lock-on range in the game, unless I decide to make some sort of special ability for it, perhaps. I also added some logic to make the players face each other if the right conditions were met, to make the block animation more realistically in a way, but that wasn't really an ideal solution, so I'll have to figure something better out for that. And I'm not satisfied with how it looks at all anyway, so I then decided to make a first playable build so I could try to actually test the game by actually dueling someone. And I quickly added a console to allow for mouse sensitivity change per command and changing full screen mode, and even toggle block through console command so I could just be AFK on one client and try to attack it with the other client without having to hold block on the other client. Anyways, I then tried the game with CallToTheLight and it somewhat worked, but like the combat was everything but good, especially since I had forgotten to sync the block state during an attack, so basically your opponent would block during an attack. And I had also removed stamina to simplify things during the development. So basically, as long as your opponent would be holding the block key, he would be blocking. So the only effective way of dealing damage was actually to get behind your opponent, and turn out jump swings actually worked extremely well. And I actually didn't intend to add jump swings, but I knew they would be possible the way the system works. And I'm pretty sure I'll keep it a thing, since I kinda like the mechanic. Then later on the server got autism and CallToTheLight learned how to fly. Anyways, that's about how far I am with the game right now. I'll probably keep working on the basic melee combat system for a while, adding more animations, replacing existing animations with better animations, making shit more realistic, making it feel smoother and make it look better, obviously. And then I'll probably start adding some other characters and start working on character-specific abilities, which I'm really looking forward to. So Zeus is the character who's already in the game. His main weapon is his lightning bolt, and yeah, no, it's not a lightsaber for those who thought it was. But I like the idea of letting him use it in a way like you would use a lightsaber. But later on he'll also be able to use it to like cause lightning strikes and yeah, just lightning abilities in general, since he's literally the god of thunder in Greek mythology. The other characters I'll add in the near future are Poseidon, Hades and Hecate. Poseidon's main weapon will obviously be his trident. Connor actually already made the model for it. By the way, Connor is going to help me with modeling in general, and Officer Yoda is hopefully going to help me with the UI design later on. Now, since the trident is a rather long weapon, I can probably let him use the same animations as Zeus has, and same goes for Hades' Bident, I think it's called. And Hecate will have her dagger and a torch, I think. So she definitely needs her own combat animation set. Another thing I'm thinking about is switching the networking, or at least add a peer-to-peer solution, like either Steamworks or Epic Online Services. Epic Online Services would be better though, since it's completely platform independent, unlike Steam, which requires you to have the Steam client running. The game networking is currently based on Tom Wieland's networking, which I actually really like using. I mean, I liked using Mirror or Unit too, but like I never really felt like I knew what was actually going on when using those. And with Tom Wieland's networking, I actually feel like I'm having control over the whole thing. However, Tom Wieland's model requires dedicated servers, and since dedicated servers are expensive, I would have to let the community host servers like games like Rust or Unturned do it, or SCP Secret Laboratory. However, not everyone knows how to do port forwarding and stuff like that, and not everyone is willing to host a server. Should the game have a small community, it could happen that no one hosts a server, which would be bad. Instead, those few players who want to play will abandon the game pretty quickly if there are no servers to play on, which is low-key what happened to Drone Wars. But I mean, Drone Wars had other issues as well, like I really fucked up with that game. Anyways, another thing is, like dedicated servers really fit for survival games or games like SCP Secret Laboratory, but I really don't know if it fits well for a dueling game with like 1v1 and 2v2 game modes. So I'm thinking of adding peer-to-peer actually. Not direct peer-to-peer, because that's way too complex, I think. But peer-to-peer where one client acts as the server and the other clients connect to that server. And the good thing about that is services like Epic Online Services or Steamworks, they have networking solutions that don't require port forwarding, and if their not traversal fails, they even offer free relay servers to guarantee a connection. So I basically don't have to worry about servers at all. However, peer-to-peer definitely has its issues, like what if the client that acts as host gets a bad internet connection or just has a shitty PC and is lagging, then it will kinda ruin the game for other players as well. Or if he crashes or rage quits, the session will just get destroyed. And I mean, there are solutions for this, like host migration, but I mean, that's some really complicated shit, and I honestly doubt I'm willing to waste time on that. Anyways, I mean, from what I've heard, For Honor is using this model, and I mean, if it works in For Honor, then it probably will in my game as well, and I mean, there are also other really good games who use this model. However, my idea was actually to use both dedicated servers and peer-to-peer. That way I could, like, get the advantages of dedicated servers, but if there are no dedicated servers, the matchmaking can fall back on peer-to-peer, so that it would always be possible to play the game regardless of if there are dedicated servers or not, as long as there are players to play with. And another thing, I actually saw Epic Online Services now provides easy anti-cheat for every engine and every platform for free, so I guess I can confirm this game is going to have way better anti-cheat than Battlefront has, at least. And I mean, from what I know, easy anti-cheat is a pretty good anti-cheat, at least compared to shit like VAC. However, I can use VAC as well if I use Steam. And to be honest, VAC is probably still better than whatever BF2 has. Okay, I think that was pretty much everything for this devlog. I just want to say I'm really hyped for this project. I hope you are as well. And also, don't worry if there is going to be some time in between these devlogs. Doing this kind of shit takes time, and it's also my first ever melee game, and there's not as much information to get about this stuff out there on the internet than it is for like FPS games, so I have to try a lot of stuff myself and experiment a lot and learn a lot of new things. And I also have to do other things than this project, sadly. So yeah, don't worry if it takes some time till the next devlog. I'll definitely keep working on this project, and I definitely won't give it up easily. Also, feel free to let me know how I could improve these devlogs, maybe make them less boring, I don't know. Or let me know if you have any ideas for the game. For now, I decided to call it Olympian Knights. Feel free to let me know if you have an idea for a better name though. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and see you in the next one. Bye!